Pierna derecha, directo al arco. ¡Golazo!
The world of football with a soccer perspective. This is Soccer Today with Duane Rollins and Kevin Laramie, live on the Sports Podcasting Network.
Good day, good night, and welcome to Soccer Today for Friday, April 1st, 2022. And it's not a joke. Canada is in the World Cup. We have a group. We have groups of life, groups of death. We have multiple names. 8 times 4. That's 32. We're all set. Duane, how are you today?
Got to watch the weird draw show. I always like watching the World Cup draw because it's always so quirky and odd.
It was so weird today. Oh, yeah, God, it was weird.
Always is. The German one from 2006 is my favorite one to no end because the Germans are odd anyway. Love you, but you're kind of odd people sometimes. So that was just a weird one. But it's good to have a name and to know and to start thinking about stuff. And I think the draw, we'll talk about it in detail in a minute, but my first overall thought was it's just exciting to know you're going to be playing players of that caliber. Like Kevin De Bruyne, come on, man. Canada's going to play Kevin De Bruyne. They're just going to play Luka Modric. I know he's 37, but they're just going to play Luka Modric. That's cool.
I'm glad we're playing Luka Modric because that's better than Portugal. It's better than Group F, better than Group H, because I won, there was one name away from being Group H. It was a weird way to unfold, and Canada was the last team drawn out of the pots, of course, because it had to be. It had to make us wait the longest possible time. And of course, before we continue, we invite you to take a second and subscribe to our YouTube page as we are continuing our push to 1,000 subscribers. And one day I'll pronounce thousands properly. And until then, thank you for subscribing to our channel. We've been seeing a lot of growth because of you and because of all the great news surrounding Canada soccer. Duane, let's stop talking for a second and let's just look at the actual results of the draw for the first time in over 30 years for the Canadian men's national team. They are in the World Cup Group F with Belgium, Morocco, Croatia. No more fries, the Belgium kind. So no more mayo with your fries, everyone. No more couscous, okay? So until November, Duane, you're not allowed to have any couscous meals. Also, there's a Croatian type of sausages that are called chichis. There's a halap chichi, but it's called chichis. They're delicious, but I will not have one until mid-December. But what do you think about overall of Canada's group?
Yeah, I don't know if I can completely give chocolate off, but maybe we'll just get Swiss chocolate, I guess is what we'll do for there. So there you go.
Exactly. Swiss, Italian, there's other type. But Belgian, no. No more Belgian waffles until November.
There you go. What do I think of the group? I think it's a great draw for Canada because I was unlike other people out there. I didn't want Qatar. I know some people wanted Qatar because they wanted the easier touch. I didn't. That was boring to me. Yeah, you might get to play in the first game. Yeah, you get to play the host team, but to me, you want to play some big names. And I think that having Croatia, the defeated finalist in 18, and the third place team in 18, these are two great teams. I think they're both. Belgium is arguably just starting to go down the hill, and I think Croatia's halfway down the hill. So they're gettable for at least a point. I think we have a lot.
Croatia's already out of control. They're seeing that tree. They're lining up the tree, and they're like, "Oh no, we're in deep trouble. Let's try to hold on for one last run."
Yeah, no, let's not be delusional too much. They're tough. They obviously are going to be the favorites against Canada in those matchups. But yes, I do think that if Canada goes in and plays the game and plays like a team that it would, like Martinez, the Belgian manager, said today that Canada's strength was they play like a club team. They're cohesive and they understand each other. So they're not going to take them lightly for sure.
And that's only going to get better because two of those starting 11 probably for Canada are going to play an entire season together in Major League Soccer with Kamal Miller and Alistair Johnston, at least all the way to the summer for sure.
Yeah, and look, and got good news today too. Alphonso Davies will be back in action in a week and a half. Bayern Munich announced that he'll be available for the second leg of their Champions League quarterfinals. So look, it's all good day for Canada there. And also, Alphonso Davies also named today the most marketable athlete in Canada. I don't know who makes those decisions, but
yeah, no, but it was Rick Westhead. It was basically a TSN. We're not sponsored by TSN, by the way, which I guess I was on TSN radio today. And I was also on CTV, so I guess this is brought to you by Bell Media, which is, I'm right in between. It's so weird. I actually Yeah. Anyways, speaking of, you're right. Alphonso Davies is the most marketable Canadian international athlete.
Yeah, and that makes so much sense. And it's funny, I was reading the comments in the Twitter feed. I opened it up expecting to see all these people like, best soccer. But no, everyone was agreeing that was probably the right choice. But to get back to the draw.
How can you argue? But you're right. Go ahead.
Yeah, Morocco too. I'm happy to see something different. I was hoping for an Asian team maybe, but they've only played CAF teams, I think, 3 or 4 times ever. So it's an interesting sort of draw. More than that, I guess, but it's been a while. And that's certainly a team that I never remember Canada playing. It's just nice to have different things to look forward to and to prepare. And I followed the Moroccan national team account today on Twitter because I got to keep tabs on them now.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, well, you're right. And I think we should start our breakdown because today we will, of course, break down a couple of different side of all the groups. We will look at all the teams and we will start with Canada in details. Let's look at Group F because Canada is in the World Cup for the first time. Breaking down this. And of course, yesterday, the new FIFA World Ranking came out. And Belgium is now second. So Belgium, team number 1 in Group F, position A1, ranking number 2 in the world. And this is their 3rd straight finals of a World Cup, Duane. Canada, of course, we're 38th now in the world. We haven't talked since the FIFA rankings came out. 38th in the world for Canada. This is our first consecutive finals because we have not been there since 1986, everyone. Morocco, team number A3, ranking 24th in the world, but that's because they're not the 24th best team in the world. Let's be frank here. If I had to maybe handicap them, I would go closer to between 30 and 40. Closer to 35. It's the way the rankings are made, and because of the Africa Cup of Nations that took place just a few months ago that did skew the rankings. Morocco 24th and Croatia, team number 4 in this group. But of course, there's the second best team. They were in pot 2, but they were the lowest seeded team in pot 2. This is the best possible scenario for pot 2, Duane, because they're 16th in the world, and in pot 2, that was the worst seeding. So that's maybe a comfort for Canada that they got at least in one of those spots the best possible scenario, at least the worst possible seed. And Morocco is close to being that, because if we look to pot 3, which is Morocco's pot, only Poland and Serbia, which 25, 26, and South Korea 29th, and Tunisia 35th. But South Korea to me is better than 29th. Poland is better than 26. And Serbia, they're an up and up. It was between Morocco and Tunisia in my favorable teams. Well, they got Morocco.
Yeah, no, for sure. And as I say, it's going to be interesting to watch a different kind of opponent. And it'll be very interesting to see what John Herman does to try and prepare for this game. Now, they have to work the Nations League in there somehow, and that is suddenly a pain. And you know what? The Nations League games, I just want to open the schedule up and play friendlies. But yeah, it's great to talk about this. And it's great to have this opportunity. Look, can Canada get out of this group? It's going to be tough, but yeah, they can. I think they can get 4 points from this. I think that they could realistically say that they could take Morocco down in the game, and if you could find a point from one of those other games and things move your way, then sure, you're looking at a round of 16. That's tough from there. It's Germany or Spain, likely, but that'd be awesome, though.
Here's a question for you, Duane, and I'm wondering, and you probably remember this off the top of your head, so I will ask you right now. Canada being number 2, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4 the first game, right?
Yeah. And
then it's 1, 3, 2, 4, and then 1, 4, 2, 3 for the last game, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So Canada's last game would be against Morocco, correct? The last game of the group stage.
I believe, yeah. The first game is definitely against Belgium. It's a hell of a way to kick off the first World Cup game.
And Belgium finishes against Croatia, so it is Canada-Morocco. So that would be the case. So it would be Belgium to start the World Cup. So you start the World Cup in a very difficult situation. For Canada, you start the World Cup with maybe a loss. So that's not easy. What can be also cool is that everyone takes you lightly. You could lose 2 goals, maybe 2-0, and it's not too bad. It's not the end of the world. You lose 2-0 to Belgium to start the World Cup, it's okay. It's okay. You don't even have a goal. It's okay. Because then you're facing Croatia. And then you're like, okay, Croatia's going to maybe take you lightly, maybe have a bit of squad rotation. They would have played Morocco, and they need 3 points. That's their for sure win, they would think of, and they need 3 points. The old legs of Croatia will play their top lineup in their first game, which means they might rotate, and Modric might not even start the second game because he's getting old. He's in his late 30s now. And that might be a benefit for Canada, and also Canada could get a result there. And imagine you draw against Croatia. You draw 1-1 or 2-2 or 0-0, or heck, you get a win. If you get a win, it's gravy from there. But you get a draw. So you're facing Morocco in your third game of the group stage. It's 1 point only, but Morocco's probably on no points, and Croatia probably has only 3 points, and depending if you win or not have 4, but depending on the differential, that's when you can pipe Croatia to the line. If you beat Morocco in your last game of the group stage by 3-4 goals, which is possible with this offense, the best international offense in the world in 2021, well, Duane, you're out of the group.
Well, yeah, and that's the dream scenario. I know, like, we can have these conversations 7 months out, and of course, when a World Cup starts and the ball starts getting kicked at anger, rarely goes chalk. It rarely goes chalk, other than the fact that one of 5 teams always wins. But I do maintain that there will be a World Cup in our lifetime where one of those big 5s, or someone else joins and it's going to be someone unexpected. I believe that's going to happen sooner rather than later, because the world of football is becoming more and more close, and the tactics are more and more universal, and you don't necessarily you don't need 30 guys at the top level to win the World Cup. You need 11 guys that are firing and playing well together. And I think as Martinez said, Canada has that. And Canada is going to keep the momentum going. They're going to play a bunch of games between then and the World Cup. They're going to keep doing this. They believe in themselves. A little bit of a slip up in the last window, but I think you can't blame them too much for the loss in Costa Rica. First off, it was a tie, in my opinion. I thought that VAR call was ridiculous, but nonetheless.
And Costa Rica, by the way, has a very high likelihood of making the World Cup. They're going to be facing New Zealand in a one-game scenario, moving to the World Cup. And CONCACAF team at the World Cup level have done well over the past 2 World Cups, Duane. We've seen teams getting win and getting knockout presence. Mexico gets to the quarterfinals famously and then stops or dies, maybe semifinals from time to time. But you're seeing these performances. The U.S. did well in 2010. So you're seeing CONCACAF do well when they get there. And Costa Rica's not going to... Costa Rica's better than you think. Costa Rica is the 4th best team in CONCACAF. And I do believe that, at home, they're difficult to beat. They're one of the best teams at home in the entire world of international football. So losing 1-0 to Costa Rica is not too shabby. And you were talking about Belgium and Croatia. They're really good teams. And, of course, they've qualified a long time ago. Both of those 2 teams qualified on November 14th after that last round of qualifying. There was a group stage for Europe, and both of those clubs have done well in the past. Croatia have been the runners-up in 2018, you mentioned that earlier, and Belgium finished 3rd in 2018. 2 of the top 3 teams of the last World Cup are in Canada's group. You mentioned how their trends, one is trending downwards, one is trending kind of downwards, and Morocco is there. Canada's trending upwards. But if I had to choose a group of death, well, Group F could be one. Not that it's a group of death, but I will call it the trap group, because there's definitely a trap for the favorite 2 teams. Because, of course, when you look at this, you think Croatia, Belgium are going to have it easy if you don't know anything about Canada. The experts they know about Canada. But when we look at the pseudo-expert, when we look at the pundits from Europe that only look at international soccer once every 4 years, like Canada, this is not played on ice. This is not hockey. They don't know about this team. Duane, they're going to be shocked when Alphonso Davies runs right by them, because he is the 2nd fastest soccer player on the planet. And then when he does a little low cross to Jonathan David, and Jonathan David scores the first Canada goal, yeah, they'll be surprised.
Yeah, we are getting more and more attention. Certainly, the Football Ramble has given Canada a lot of attention over the past month or so, surprisingly so. No, I think part of that's because they have a lot of listeners here and they're sucking up to us a bit. But nonetheless, there is respect in the right corners. But you're absolutely right, too. And I was looking at some neutral stuff out there, just gauge reaction to the draw. And there are a lot of people that one person, there was a thread, they were asking what the worst game in the first round would be, and one person suggested it'd be Canada versus Morocco, and I'm like, yeah, tell me you've never watched Canada without telling me you've never watched Canada, right?
Exactly, because Alphonso Davies is going to play well in that game. Can you imagine Jonathan David? No. Yeah, and that's all without counting on the surprise player. Every team has a surprise player that emerges during the World Cup year. And it's probably going to be Ismaël Koné, but who knows? It's going to be a great time, Duane. And after the break, we'll continue to break down every single group of this World Cup 2022. This is a special show dedicated entirely to the World Cup draw. And later today on the podcast feed only, you will have an MLS weekend preview looking at every single game in Major League Soccer for the weekend. But when we come back from the break, Duane and I will continue to break down all the groups from the World Cup. We'll look at Qatar. We'll look, of course, at Group A, which is involving Qatar. And which group is the group of death? Which group is the group of life? And which games are really getting us, well, to salivate? Because I am getting really excited. That and more after this short break.
You are listening to Soccer Today. Follow us on Twitter at SoccerTodaySPN and like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Sports Podcasting Network. You can find the podcast version of all the shows we do on iTunes, Apple Podcast, Google Play Store, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and anywhere you get your podcast.
And we're back on Soccer Today. Kevin Laramie joined by Duane Rollins. As always, we invite you to grab your phone for a second and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Sports Podcasting Network, as we continue our breakdown of all the groups in Qatar. And Duane, it was fun to see Idris Elba and all the other dignitaries, which took forever, by the way, before we got to the freaking draw. And I was like, are we ever going to get the balls being taken out of the pot? I was never nervous before a draw before today, and then I was just like, can we be done with the pomp and circumstance already and get to the meat of it? But eventually we did. What do you think about the whole show before it and the kind of a weird mascot that was unveiled too?
Casper the Ghost.
It does look like Casper the Friendly Ghost. I was wondering what it looked like. Oh, yeah, it's going to be great.
I'm not a big mascot guy, but there a darker sort of a statement of fact is that maybe it's a ghost for all the dead migrant workers, right? Like, it's not to be
that went dark really quickly. You should give us a warning before you go.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Look, what do I think? You gotta make a show out of it. They could probably crunch it a little bit tighter. That was a long time, and I had a meeting at 1:15. And I started watching that damn thing at noon, and it was like an hour on this. I mean, they can't even get drawn because they're the last ball out. So I did just get it before the meeting started. So I did see them come out. So that was good. But yeah,
look, that was close. Almost you would have missed either your meeting or the Canada being drawn.
Yeah. Quickest aside, in the background right now behind me on my TV, the celebration on Sunday is on. So they're on the field and they're interviewing players. They just interviewed Alistair Johnson. You're a wrestling guy and you like video games. Now, can you imagine like EA Sports Wrestling back in like the late 2000s, like 2009 or so, when you could put your face in the game? Does Alistair Johnson not look like an 8-year-old put his face in a wrestling game a little bit? He's got a little boy's head and a man's body. You know what I mean? Anyway.
I love his enthusiasm, though. And his enthusiasm and the energy he brings. And he follows the sport. And he's a fan. And he's a fan of the World Cup, and he's going to have to play. I've been seeing a lot more of him, of course, because he's with Montreal this year, and he's been really following Nashville pretty closely last year, too. But no, you're right, though. He looks very young, and he looks like kind of like, but it's awesome.
Those arms, man, jeez.
Well, yeah. Well, there's a reason why. His work ethic shows, and there's a reason why he's became one of the best defender from Canada. But enough of Canada. We're going to have 7 months to break down Canada's lineup, their tactical awareness and everything, because that's what we do here on Soccer Today. We talk about Canadian soccer, about Major League Soccer, and the U.S. men's national team all day, every day, throughout the year, and even more. But of course, let's continue. Let's break down groups. Let's break down group number A, and let's go again now. Let's look at the group of the host, Qatar. Ecuador is also with Qatar, Senegal, and the Netherlands. Not a bad group. Some say that's the group of life.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far because I think Senegal and Ecuador are better than people think. Senegal, I think, has a legit argument to be the dark horse. I don't know if a team with Mane and it could be a dark horse, but African champions playing well right now. Yeah, who's real happy today is the Netherlands. That's
Yes.
a soft touch group for them for sure.
Which, by the way, they're really happy, and they needed to, because they struggled recently, and they hadn't been in the World Cup since 2014, famously missing the World Cup in Russia. For the Netherlands, they are ranked 10th in the world. Their finals appearance best ever is the last times they were there. It's the 11th time, that they are in the finals. They were runners-up in 74, in 78, and in 2010. They've never won this tournament. They got close again twice, but they are ranked 10th in the world, and that's a pretty generous rankings. They've been struggling all the way to even last summer. They didn't have the expected performance at the Euro. Let's not forget, Frank de Boer was the manager at the Euro, and during the Euro, he resigned also right after his team got eliminated from this championship.
Yeah, they won the Nations League, which I don't know what that means, really, but I don't, honestly. The Dutch are always, it's good to have them back. There's something about the colors and their fans, and, I am putting my loonies away to hopefully be over there for a little bit of it, so I love the idea that some of these famous fan groups will be around and you might get a chance to see them, so that should be fun too. But look, yeah, it's a reasonable draw for them, and I don't know, I've watched Qatar a little bit. They're not to be sleeping on completely, because there's a history of host teams getting results at World Cups. I believe South Africa was the only team to knock it out of their group as a host nation team. They won their first game, if you remember. So
yeah, the only stat now that exists still is a host group has never lost their first game in the World Cup, including South Africa. They drew their first game. 6 times it happened that a host country had a draw in their first game and they never lost. This could be the first time, though, but we'll see. Qatar is ranked 51st in the world, which is the lowest Pot A seed by a long shot. And we're seeing Ecuador that is ranked 46th. So 2 teams that are pretty low in the rankings in 46, 51, and Senegal is ranked 20th in the world with the Netherlands 10th, as we just talked about.
Yeah. So I'm going to think this one's going to be Senegal and Netherlands coming out. But as I said, I'm not going to sleep on the host nation. We saw it with Russia in 18 too. No one expected anything from them. They got favorable referee decisions. I'm not saying they're corrupt, but there's just a human nature to that. And Russia went to the quarterfinals? Did they not? It was round 16 anyway. They went deeper than anyone thought.
Well, yes, because we thought they were going to be elieliminated.
They had a good stamina too, surprisingly.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, they had they had energy for entire games. But it's interesting. All right, let's continue. Let's go now and look at Group B. Group B: England, Iran. Yes, England, Iran, and the United States. Isn't that interesting? If we get politics out of the way, U.S. and Iran in the same group. That's going to be a glorious commentary there for sure at some point. And the UEFA playoff team. So that will be either Wales, Ukraine, or let me just double check to make sure I don't say anything wrong, or Scotland. So Wales or Scotland will be in the group of England, or maybe Ukraine. Maybe I kind of wish it was Ukraine, but let's face it. Well, it will be difficult for Ukraine to qualify for this one versus Wales or Scotland. So it could be England, Iran, USA, and Wales, or Scotland. A lot of familiar foes in this one.
Medal for Ukraine, obviously, to get there. I have someone with a bit of Scottish heritage kind of feel guilty cheering against Ukraine in that game that they will play in June, but we'll see how that goes on the day. Hopefully the war is over by then and Ukraine is reclaimed what it's rightfully theirs back. But I think England has to be confident with this draw. The Americans are also confident with this draw. The Americans are always confident with the draw, though, especially on Twitter. They're very chirpy about this, and go read the feeds out there. Twitter's not a reflection of real life, though.
No, it's not.
A British journalist nailed it to me. He said, a lot of people are being overly cautious about trying to overstate how easy the draw was outside of the tabloids in England. Because of out of respect, and we don't want to have bulletin board stuff and all that sort of stuff. But what I think is going to happen, the journalist said, is that England's going to win all 3 games rather comfortably, by scoring like 1-0 wins and just kind of grind it out boringly, because they are better than all three of these teams. The U.S. is likely the second best team in this group, even if Ukraine or Scotland, Wales factoring that in, although you never know with Bale in international football if you can get in there. But
usually
yeah.
Bale plays well. Remember, he propelled his team really. Last World Cup, was it? Did he play? I don't remember.
Euro. They haven't played in a World Cup since the 50s. But
it's the Euro. Yeah, so we'll see if they can make it there.
Yeah, look, as I say, the U.S. can get out of that group for sure, and that's what a lot of our listeners will be interested in. They're going to need to hit on all cylinders. They can't lie down, and they got the TV people down there real happy because Black Friday, England versus USA, and 2:00 afternoon kickoff.
So that's going to be maybe the most watched soccer game in the history of the United States.
Yeah, I don't even think it's going to be a doubt that there will probably be 50, 60, 70 million people watching that game. Yeah.
It'll be crazy. All right, let's continue. Let's plow through the groups. Let's put on the dance music and dance with Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Poland. That's an interesting group. Poland is a tricky adversary. They're ranked 26th in the world, but let's face it, they have a wonder striker that only needs 1 or 2 chances, and then it's 2-0, and you find yourself playing behind the 8 ball, even though you might be a better team. Mexico will not have it easy against any team in here. Saudi Arabia is better than you think. Argentina has a Messi maybe for the last time, with a better supporting cast around Messi that is younger than the last time. And don't forget, they almost won the World Cup in 2014, so you can maybe be surprised by Argentina. And Poland, like we said, they have a great striker. Mexico could finish 4th in this one. I think it won't happen, but it'll be difficult for Mexico to get out of the group.
I think of the traditional powers, which I would include Argentina in, they're kind of the biggest enigma to me going into this. They of course won the Copa America in the summer as well. So, they have finally succeeded. Messi has that element off of his back in terms of not winning a trophy with Argentina. He has that now. Is it his last World Cup? I mean, if he continues to play the way he is at the club level, it might be. But
he probably won't even deserve, like right now, if you look at his 5 months of play this year, or with PSG, he doesn't even deserve to be, but it's Messi, so.
Yeah. I have a prediction that Messi is going to somehow find his way back to Barcelona at some point in the next little while. So,
sure.
I don't know how that will work financially, but I am sure that he would be happier there. Alas, but look, in terms of the rest of the group, you mentioned, Mexico is. We've talked a lot about Mexico in the last week or so, so I don't want to belabor them right now. But the TLDR of it is that they're just not firing right now. And that said, they've had the same amount of points as Canada in the qualifying campaign. Not that they're bad, but compared to what we've used to seeing from Mexico, they're not as good as they have been in the past. They have 7 months to fix it. That's a long stretch from now. Like it's a whole season basically, right? So, I would put Poland. I nicked them just above them. I think Saudi Arabia is the 4th best in this group, but Argentina. Could they win a World Cup? I don't think it's out of the question, which is why I put them as an enigma in this. The same with Brazil. They're similar to me. And they did top the qualifying down there. Brazil and Argentina qualified pretty comfortably in South America this time.
Brazil is the top team in the world, according to the FIFA rankings right now. And they played better than we think. And, of course, that's if Neymar doesn't become a distraction for the team. Already saying right now that this is probably my last World Cup. Already looking we were playing dance music. Well, he's already looking ahead to Ibiza. And I think he's looking at his post-career as a DJ or as a dance, or as a dance something over there, because we all know how Neymar loves to party outside of his regular time. Let's talk about Group D. France, IC Playoff 1. So IC Playoff 1 is Peru, Australia, or United Arab Emirates, UAE. So Peru is the South American qualifier, and the winner of the one-off match between Australia and the UAE will face Peru. So Australia will face Peru, and then it'll be between the two to make it to Group D, that also has Denmark and Christian Eriksen, who scored on his first touch on his first time hitting the pitch after his heart attack. And Duane, you won't believe this. Hollywood scenario. It was where the same pitch as where he had a heart attack. beautifully done life. You gave him a second go at it, and he played on that game on the same pitch and scored a goal on his first touch. Christian Eriksen, he will be one to watch this summer for Denmark. In group number D, with also Tunisia. Not a bad team. There's a young 19-year-old that played for Tunisia, Duane, that has, first of all, a glorious set of hair that looks like Sideshow Bob from The Simpsons, but also he's very young. He's playing for Manchester United. He only played one game at the Premier League level yet, but he's featured in the youth teams, and he's already played a few games for Tunisia, and he could be one of the youngsters of the tournament.
Yeah, and it's always interesting to see those players emerge. You mentioned Eriksen. There's a lot of narratives in this tournament. There's some good stories. You know, if Ukraine gets there, obviously that'll be one. I think Canada's a narrative unto its own too, because the way that team's built. But he's obviously going to get a lot of attention, deservedly so. It is a nice story, and I'm sure he'll be sick of talking about the time the World Cup rolls around. By the way, quick aside, people keep calling it a winter World Cup. It's not in the winter, guys. It's in the fall. That's all I have to say. I'm very pedantic when it comes to my seasons. It is the fall World Cup.
And over there, it feels like summer, so it should be okay.
Winter starts on December 21st, guys. Anyway.
Yes, anyways.
In terms of this group, look, France are very good, although they're an enigma, and you never know what you're going to get with them, right? Like, is this the one World Cup where they implode? Look at what happened in the Euro. Like, they went boom in that thing, right?
Well, that's the thing. Because that happened during the Euro, maybe they get it together for the World Cup. Maybe Mbappe doesn't play the superstar. Benzema probably won't be part of the team, so that will also answer that question. But it's an interesting aspect. You look at this group, and I don't think the IC playoff one winner will be a big difference maker in this one. So I can safely say, for me, the two favorites in this group, even if it's Australia or Peru, it's still France and Denmark. And let's not forget, Denmark went on a run at the Euro. And if they replicate those type of performances, well, France and Denmark are coming out of the group.
Very good, yes. And a quick aside, on a friend level, Martin Montes, my Peruvian friend, he got your wish, Martin. We're on opposite sides of the draws. Canada and Peru can't play each other till the final. There you go.
Sure. And if you could parlay that, like every game they win to make it there, you make a whole bunch of money. All right, let's continue and let's break down the rest of the groups here. Group E, Spain, IC playoff 2, which will be the winner of Costa Rica versus New Zealand. And then Germany and Japan. For me, Duane, this is a very difficult group because Costa Rica, which will be the favorite against New Zealand, is better than people will give them credit for. Spain and Germany will have their hands full with Japan too. This is not an easy group.
No, I think this is the group of death. Now that partly because I think Costa Rica will be that fourth team in there, and I think Costa Rica is very good. Definitely, and when you look at the teams that were in the fourth group there, pot, that they were right up there with us probably as the best team that you could have drawn from there. So look. That said, we're talking about Spain, we're talking about Germany here. We're talking about a German team that was very disappointing in the last World Cup, that's going to want to go in and erase those doubts, going to want to turn things around. A Spanish team that is actually quietly starting to creep its way back into contention again. I would definitely consider them one of the favorites to win this tournament. Early days yet, but for sure, if you look at the overall talent there and the way that they've played internationally in the last little bit, for sure they're amongst the favorites. Japan is always good at the tournaments. It's a tough ask for them. I think they have the hardest draw of any team in this World Cup. And as I said, I mean, Costa Rica will be happy to be there, but let's not forget that Costa Rica, if they do in fact win the playoff against New Zealand, they made a quarterfinal for us in our memory, right? So this is not a team to sleep on either.
Was it in Brazil? Well, I think it was.
2010, yeah.
2010, sorry, South Africa. So, no, exactly. And I think
it's 2014, pardon me.
So It was in Brazil. That's what I think, because I remembered that. Because usually teams, even from North America, play well, even in South America. There's something about European teams not playing well traveling here, too. And it'll be interesting to see a World Cup in an Arab country and an Asia country if we're looking at this confederation, because it hasn't happened before, at least in an Arab country. We'll see how that affects, because travel is one thing, and we'll see how acclimatization and also how nutrition comes to be a big part of it. All right, let's continue our breakdown of these groups, and we're now looking at Group G. Group G, Brazil, Serbia, Switzerland, and Cameroon. Interesting group. Brazil, the best team in the world according to the FIFA Men's Rankings. And we have Switzerland. Switzerland is not a bad team at all. Switzerland with a Xherdan Shaqiri. And of course now we know that he will be maybe part of this group, but he is playing in MLS. We'll see if that changes their roster. 14th in the world for Switzerland. This is their 12th final appearance. They appeared the last time in 2018. This is their 5th straight World Cup qualification. And for Switzerland, their best ever performance at a World Cup is the quarterfinals, and it happened 3 times in their history, in 1934, in 1938, 1954. Now for Brazil, this is their 22nd consecutive finals appearance. And this is the 22nd World Cup finals. They've never missed a final. Brazil have always been there, of course, and they are right now going to be a pretty good favorite for the whole tournament, for the group for sure. And let's not forget, they have won the World Cup at 5 different occasions. Duane, 1958, 1962, 1970. The one I remember the most is 1994 in the USA. I had that mascot forever. And let's not forget 2002 with a very questionable haircut for the original Ronaldo.
It's been 20 years since Brazil won a World Cup, though. I was thinking about it when I was out for my run last night. That was going through my head. How has it been 20 years since Brazil's won a World Cup? That's outrageous. And I'm sure in Brazil they're overdue. Like, they thought they had it. Obviously, they have the loss to Germany, the 7-1 loss to Germany that's still ringing around in their heads. And,
Yeah,
we saw
at home. Let's not forget they lost at home 7-1.
The gentleman is no longer with us, but the famous shot of the man holding the World Cup trophy and
he
crying.
passed away. Yeah, his sons took up the mantle though, so his sons will probably be in Qatar. We'll see. They probably will have to sell their houses just to get to Qatar.
Yeah, I've been looking at the cost. That's where if I had a house to sell, I sold mine.
Well, no, you should bring it with you because just finding accommodations is going to be a big challenge.
Yeah, I'm just gonna take a raft and sleep in the water. It should be fine. It'll be fine.
Isn't it in the desert? Anyways, no, there is a beach. There's beaches there too.
To finish the thought on the group, to get back to football for a second. Obviously, Brazil is the favorite of this, and they're amongst the favorites when the tournament is there in any tournament. What I will say about the rest of the group, Switzerland always makes it out of the group.
Yeah.
They're bankable. Forgive the pun, but they are bankable in Switzerland. They will probably make it out as the second team in here. But Cameroon and Serbia are both decent sides. This is kind of a down cycle for Cameroonian football, but Serbia was pretty good in European qualifying. They got there direct. They didn't go through the back door.
No, exactly. Serbia, here, I'll give you a couple of information on Serbia before we continue. Serbia is 25th in the world. They've ranked directly. They finished top of their group in qualifying. So on November 14th, they qualified. This is their 2nd straight finals appearance. Their best result ever at the World Cup is a 4th place in 1930 and a 4th place in 1962. But it is a better team than people think. Of course, maybe not a top 10 team, maybe not a contender, but a team that could get out of the group. But it will be that game against Switzerland that will be a big tell to know who's going to finish second. I do believe Brazil could win the group. But Duane, when you think of Brazil, this is not a Brazil team that is also extremely dangerous. It has some offensive power. And there's, of course, a couple of great players and young players that we don't expect that always shows up. But when I look at the world of football and the tactical abilities now of players, it can't just be attacking. You can't just want to score goals, and you can't just play a beautiful style. Yoga Bonito hasn't done anything in over 20 years now. So how will Brazil be able to reassure their defense? Because Brazil's not going to win until they can defend.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I think one of the big issues in why the South American teams seem to have slipped off, it has a lot to do with the quality of their domestic leagues, which are really, really slipping further and further. So you just don't get that depth. They lose their players early. They don't play as much together. They have this massive reputation to uphold, so they feel they have to play the game in a certain way. That's why I said Argentina was an enigma to me, and it's why I think Brazil is an enigma. They are ranked number 1 in the world, but that has a lot to do with the fact that they've been playing in South America. in World Cup qualifiers for a while, and they've been dominating down there. That's going to give them the points. The FIFA rankings are, to say they're imperfect is to do it disservice. They're bad.
They're bad. Yes, you should look at the ELO rankings, and then you would have a bit of better idea. And that's why also, that's how I handicap also my group. So that's why sometimes they're like, oh, Morocco's there. Yeah, but Morocco shouldn't be as high as 24th in the world. They're a lot lower, and that's because you look using ELO rankings to handicap these groups. All right, let's finish with this show. Let's finish with Group H. Let's talk about Ronaldo. Let's talk about Cristiano playing in a 5th World Cup. And Ronaldo will have Ghana, Uruguay, and Korea. It'll be an interesting group. Some say it's a group of death. I don't agree. To me, there's 2 clear-cut best teams in here, which is Portugal and Uruguay. And then there's a little gap. There's Korea and Ghana. Korea could play spoilers, but I don't think Korea is going to have what it takes to take over Portugal. And Uruguay always shows up. Maybe not with expectations, and this could be the last go around at a World Cup for Luis Suarez. So it'll be important to see what happens for Uruguay. But to me, it's Portugal and Uruguay's group to lose.
Uruguay and Suarez versus Ronaldo would have been a great matchup in 2010, 2014.
Yes. Now it's almost, I'm looking more at Cavani and Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah. Look, you're right. That's probably the team. This is the worst Ghana team I've ever seen. I don't know how they qualified. Like, they were terrible, but they did. So congratulations to them. But I would not to be dismissive of any team that makes a World Cup. They might be the weakest team in the entire draw outside of Qatar, perhaps. And Qatar has the host factor. So I really don't think much will happen for the Ghanaians. Or is it Ghanaians? They're Ghanas, and they're from Ghana. Because there's another Ghana out there. Anyway, Korea is sneaky too. Although, that said, I think a lot of their reputation at a World Cup level is based on one run 20 years ago now. And I remind you, that was 20 years ago. So
the one that Brazil won. Yes, you're right. South Korea, Duane, is ranked 29th in the world. They've qualified on February 1st. They finished 4th in 2002, and that's their best result ever. That's the one, the World Cup that, of course, hosted with Japan. And their last appearance was in 2018. This is the 7th time in a row they are part of a World Cup for, 10 times in a row they're part of the World Cup for South Korea. But they're ranked 29th in the world, which is, technically this is not like, I know it's not the 32 best teams, but there's 32 teams, and they're ranked 29, so that tells you what you need to know.
Yeah, look, and again, FIFA rankings do what you want with them, and Canada dropped 5 points in a window they qualified, so that tells you that they lost 2 games. I get it.
But Canada would have been 30. Yeah, you're right. Canada would have been 33rd if they would have won those games against Costa Rica and against Panama.
Yeah, even the draw would have put them a little higher, but regardless, it didn't matter to the end. That's all that talk about Pot C versus Pot D was nice and fun for a couple days, but it ultimately is meaningless because the draw wouldn't have been much different if it was Pot C versus Pot D. But alas, or I guess 3 and 4 is whatever they call them. Portugal is pretty good, and I think this is a favorable draw for them. Now, they'll look at this. If you want to extrapolate this to the knockout stage, they're going to have to get past Brazil pretty early in this if they don't both win the group. So that might be something that they would concern them. And that would be an interesting day here in the neighborhood that I live in, with Brazil played Portugal. Because if you don't know, I live in Little Portugal, and the joke in Toronto is that the Portuguese, it's the Homer meme that as soon as Portugal goes out, they come back out wearing the Brazil shirt.
Yeah, obrigado. Yeah, boa noite. Like, we speak the same language. Let's come over. Let's be friends.
Yeah.
Let's forget that we colonized you.
Yeah, I was going to say, funny anecdote. I think I've told this before, but when I was in Spain the last time, I was touring this old church, and they were so proud of it. It had all this gold in it, and the Portuguese guides, it was a Portuguese guide, says to the Portuguese tourists, the Brazilian tourists, he goes, and you'll be so proud that this gold, it comes from your beautiful home. And they just looked at him like, you stole that from us, right? So I don't know if the same feeling exists in Brazil as it does in Portugal to switch allegiances that quick.
I guess it's like Egyptians when they go to museums in Europe and like, wait, you guys stole that from us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very similar. On that downwards note, you can follow us on social media. On Twitter at 24th Minute for Duane, at Kev Larmy for myself. Thank you for joining us in this beautiful journey. And before we say goodbye, please take a second and subscribe to our YouTube page where you can find all our breaking news shows that we will continue to do, of course, and all our shows that break down all the World Cup news, Canada especially, United States also. Will keep on following, of course, our teams all the way to Qatar and during Qatar. And you can find the podcast version of this show anywhere you find your favorite podcast. Also available on our website at sportspodcastingnetwork.com. As always, until next time, for Duane Rollins, I'm Kev Laramie. You will find a podcast version of our MLS preview show on the podcast feed in the next few hours. But as always, until Monday, for Duane Rollins, I'm Kev Laramie, and we wish you a great soccer.